All right. The other thing, Osvaldo Alonso, Mr. Seattle Sounders center midfielder, says that there are a lot of English Premier League teams knocking at his door. And so I guess the real question is here, that could be trouble for Seattle, first of all. But the question was about his work permit. He has not played for the Cuban national team. As we all know, they're very strict apparently strict work permit rules if you want to go play in the English Premier League. And I guess because he actually fled Cuba and is no longer a Cuban citizen and no longer plays for Cuba and lives in the United States, that maybe he might get some sort of exemption and be able to play in the EPL.
There's so many rules, and there's so many ways to bend the rules. I have no idea where to even begin with that.
Yeah.
I don't presume to be a expert on the rules, especially since, again, like we've talked about in numerous shows, that they make exceptions all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, Alonso is a very talented midfielder, and I've said it a number of years that he's really underrated by a lot of people.
Yeah.
There are obviously those who rate him as high as
he didn't even make the All-Star team, did he?
Yeah. No, well, now you're putting me on the spot because I don't...
No, I don't think he did. I think that was one of the big gaps. You're like, where's Osvaldo Alonso? He's like one of the best players in the league at that position.
I mean, he's a very talented center midfielder, and he very well could be the next player to leave Seattle. I mean, they've already lost a number of players this offseason.
Freiburg,
Yeah, and it's just one of those things that Seattle's going to have a lot of work this offseason. I don't doubt that Siggy will manage to find decent replacements, even if Alonso ends up leaving. But at this point in his career, it might be a point where, if it comes down to choosing between signing another 3 years with Seattle or going abroad and making a final paycheck, I mean, I don't think anybody's going to pay a lot of money for him just to come over and ride Pine. I think a lot of teams will look to pull him over.
Yeah.
To most likely utilize him because they really believe in him, because he is a talented player.
Yeah.
I think he might take the bigger paycheck, but then again, he might show a lot of loyalty to the team that really got him as far as he is right at this point.
Well, that's kind of the question. If he really wanted to stay in Seattle, I'm just wondering why he's coming out and making these big announcements.
Perhaps that's the same reason why a bunch of Europeans say that MLS is an option.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. I mean, is he saying that to get a salary increase, re-sign a new contract at a higher level? Yeah, I mean, it could be politics too, and we don't know yet, and we can't say. But it is unusual for a player to come out and say, I've got all these. Usually it's through your agent, right? But, I mean, apparently he's been saying, there's all these English Premier League teams interested in me. So we'll see how the work permit thing works out. I believe he'll get an exemption because he is a political defector. Cuba, I don't know. We obviously accepted that and brought him to the MLS, no problem. And he's now lives in the United States. I would probably guess that the rules would be bent a little for him to get a work permit in England. But we'll see. We'll have to see, because you never know about those guys.
Yeah.
All right. MLS transfer rumors. The first one is Hadji Diouf, the spitter. His move possibly to the LA Galaxy. And I think this will be really interesting, Brett, because this guy, and listen, he's played for some great teams. He's played for West Ham, Bolton. He's started out in England, at least with Liverpool, and before that he was with a number of teams, Sochaux included, in France. He's a good player. Mm-hmm. He still can play. I mean, he's with Doncaster. He had like a 3-month loan there, which ends here in this winter transfer season. He played 4 games and scored 2 goals in the championship. So he's no slouch as a player. I think the real question about Diouf is that he has a spitting problem. He likes to spit. If you read anything about his history, he is a long line of spitting on this player and that fan and this fan. In fact, it happened, I think, while he was on loan with Rangers just last season. I think he spit on some opponents. I don't know the exact facts, but the guy likes to spit. And I think that's got to stop because, I mean, that's the big question. Do you bring a troublemaker, if you're the Galaxy, to your team?
Everybody loves to hate someone. I mean, we had Blanco in the past.
But he wasn't a spitter.
No, he wasn't a spitter. No. No. Well, I don't know if that's the case or not, but no. But still, as much as people will preach like, "Oh, we don't need that personality here. We don't need that type of mentality." People love headlines. People love to hate on people, hate on players. They like that bad. Some people like the bad boy in the league. Not saying that he'll be that player. But
based on his history,
his history is against him.
Yeah.
But he also has interest in Russia apparently, and who knows where it might go. I mean, if Russia throws out big contracts,
or the Russian team you can't pronounce.
No, not even going to try.
Hey, I couldn't even
pronounce it. That's why I said
the
Russian league. I said there's interest in the Russian league. I'm not going to try to pronounce that.
And I love the news report. They called that Russian team a Russian giant. A Russian giant? They're not a Russian giant. Anyhow, that's really...
Maybe giants as far as financially speaking. Their pockets are full.
Yeah. Well... yeah, I guess that's got to be the only thing... Because that's the only thing I can think of as well. But, all right. So, if he moves to the Galaxy, at this point it's all
everybody's linked to the Galaxy.
Yeah, well...
I'm not putting much stock in it until the ink is dry.
Yeah, exactly. Just wait for the ink to dry. Speaking of the Galaxy, though... One thing that is getting closer and closer to being confirmed is Omar Gonzalez's move to Club America, who sit near the very bottom of the Mexican Primera. And, this is Club America, Brett. I mean, they've given up 31 goals so far at midseason. That's more goals than any team in the Mexican Primera, and if the Mexican Primera's relegation rules weren't so idiotic and so odd, i.e., all your points since 2009 count, and then they average out your points per season to decide who gets relegated. So even though they're near the very bottom of the table, I think they're second from the bottom, they're not going to get... They're not going to get relegated unless something horrible happens. Like, they have to lose and continue to lose, and Estudiantes has to just completely continue to play horrible. So my question is, what's the point? What is the point, besides the fact that Jurgen Klinsmann likes center backs who play in Mexico, Orozco? What is the point of moving from the best team in the MLS, the LA Galaxy, to go play for one of the worst teams in the Mexican Primera, Club America, despite their history?
I was going to say the history is the big thing. First off, with that comment about the relegation, you're going to draw a lot of fun responses from posters. But
of course,
I would say the history behind the team is a major plus, and a lot of players, especially a lot of Mexican American players, they're going to see that as this is historically one of the major teams.
Yeah,
It might just be a very bad couple of seasons here that Club America is down there. I really don't follow the league all that much. Whether or not it'll be an increase or improvement in Klinsmann's eyes, I don't know. I figured Gonzo would have attracted interest from other places as well, although given his heritage, it obviously stands a chance of making the quick move over.
It hasn't helped Herculez Gomez.
No, it hasn't. And that's the big thing right there, isn't it?
All right. Yeah.
So
yeah,
it helps some players out, very questionable players, but then it doesn't help others. That should be obvious. But
yeah. I'm just not sure. I guess maybe, perhaps, it is Klinsmann who doesn't like Mexican American players whose last names start in G. But that's about all I can think of.
Perhaps we're onto something there.
Yeah, Gomez, Gonzalez.
We'll start the conspiracy theory now.
Yeah. I think that, here's just my thought. I would skip the Club America thing if I were Omar Gonzalez. I think he's developing just fine at LA Galaxy. I think that if it were a team, in Europe, whether it be Holland or, even Belgium or Italy or, something like that, I'd take that. Or even France. I don't like the idea of playing for one of the worst teams who actually, by the way, still do have a very big chance of being relegated if Estudiantes just picks it up a little, right? Because the average points per game in their relegation system since 2009, Estudiantes isn't far below Club America right now. So Club America could very well still be relegated. And in that case, I guess you just sign a 1-year contract and come back to the MLS or go somewhere else. I don't know. I'm kind of torn by this. My instinct is please stay at the LA Galaxy, and maybe I'm just being selfish because I am a Galaxy fan.
Do we know how long he has left on his contract, or is it up this season?
Yeah, that's a good question too.
I wouldn't make the. If your contract's almost up, or if let's just say he has another year on his contract, I would finish off the MLS season and see what your options are.
Yeah, that seems to make more sense.
Well, and just because, also, unless he's out of contract, just because Club America's showing him this interest does not mean LA Galaxy or MLS will end up trading it, transferring.
That's correct.
Because they made it apparent that they're not a league that's going to be trafficking players, or selling players. They're not going to be a selling league per se.
Right.
But obviously, if the bid's big enough, they would contemplate it. They would maybe do it. But I don't know if the bid would be big enough.
Yeah.
To really make them turn their heads. And then at that point, if you're Gonzo, if you have your, let's say, 1 year left on your contract, I would ride it out and see what your options are from there. Because if he has another stellar season, I can only imagine he's going to gain interest abroad in Europe or even further south. I don't know.
Yeah. I can only think that Club America is just desperate. Their defense has been so bad this season. Hernan Crespo to MLS. Good old Hernan. 36 years old. He says he's interested. I'm just saying, even though this is a guy throughout his career that scores a goal every 2 games, he's slowed down pretty significantly, but he never really relied on his speed to begin with. No. He's a 6'1", kind of poacher. And that, that's the kind of player that a lot of teams could use, but they're only going to get him for a year. Maybe 1 season you're going to get out of Hernan Crespo. Is that worth it? Not
to me. No, and I don't think this is a true interest. In all honesty, he's like I'm not closing any doors in the Middle East. I'm not gonna. I keep my options open in America. But he did note that he is done with the highest. He's done with playing highest level soccer, and he's looking to continue on working hard in other lower levels.
So that's the thing that got me too, though. It's like, listen, Parma and Genoa, those are good teams, but it's not like he's playing for Inter or AC Milan or Juventus. He's been done playing a high level of soccer for some time.
Yeah, I think he's talking about the overall level of like the league per se.
Okay,
I've been saying that a lot.
Yeah.
Anyways, his comments really make me think that it's going to mainly be who's going to offer the largest amount of money. And I've been saying that a lot today, too.
Yeah.
But that's what it sounds like to me. It's like, I'm not closing the door over here, nor am I going to close the door over here. But I'm interested in my options. I don't
want any guy to come to the MLS who just said in an interview that he's done playing the highest level of soccer.
Yeah.
Screw that. I want a guy like Henry or Beckham who said, I want to bring the highest level of soccer to MLS. That's what I want. I don't want some guy saying, yeah, I'm kind of burnt out. I'm done playing good soccer, so I'm just looking to cash in,